What's up guys, it's Gavin. Today we'll be taking a look at Roundnet defensive strategy. Let's get into it. Defense is one of the most difficult yet rewarding aspects of competitive Roundnet. Knowing where you're going to be and where your partner is going to be when the ball is hit astronomically increases the probability of getting a touch. Even a decent defensive touch means another opportunity to rally, attack, and potentially convert. Unlike the majority of traditional sports played on rectangular courts with boundaries, Roundnet's playing court is circular, 360 degrees, and without boundaries. This allows for both a dynamic and unpredictable offense. The basis of defensive strategy is predicting which options the offense will have. When you know which options the offense has, you and your partner can develop a set defense for each of those options and react accordingly. Depending on where the set lands, there are 6 common shots that a player could hit with either their dominant or non-dominant hand. These are open, pull, push, flick, short, and tweener. An open is a hit that is parallel with the hitter's initial shoulder position and is the easiest for beginners to learn. Despite being an easy shot for defenders to read, it is one of the safest and most powerful shots. Offensive players at even the highest level may hit this shot hard and directly at defenders in hopes of forcing an error. Pull, also commonly known as a wrap, is a hit in which the player alters their shoulder position in the process of hitting and pulls the shot towards their body. Players will purposely square their shoulders to the net and adjust at the last second for an added layer of deception. At the highest level, a pull can alter the initial angle of an attack by almost 90 degrees. A push, also known as a bull, is a hit in which the player alters their shoulder position in the process of hitting and pushes the shot away from their body. Because the push counteracts the hitter's natural swing and momentum, it often relies on placement rather than power to beat the defense. A flick is a low, versatile backhanded attack that relies primarily on the hitter's wrist for power. When hitting a flick from the center of the net, a professional player has almost 180 degrees to work with using either hand. However, with the introduction of the no-hit zone, flick shots are being set closer to the hitter and are being directed towards the front half of the net rather than the right and left halves. A tweener is a hit that travels between the legs either from being in front of to behind the hitter or from being behind the hitter to in front. The ability to use the area between the legs allows players to add angles they would not have otherwise had and recover broken sets. In the no-hit zone variation, tweeners are far more difficult and less common. Now that we understand offensive shots, we can move on to defensive keys. A solid defensive strategy is composed of 3 keys, and those are scheme, orientation, and rotation. Scheme is how you and your partner will be positioned in relationship to one another. Orientation is the position of all players before the first offensive touch. And rotation is how the offensive team approaches the net as they set up their attack. Schemes are essentially defensive blueprints or contracts between teammates that say, when you're here, I'll be there. In order to show the 4 schemes commonly used in Roundnet, we'll need a server, tracker, and receiver. In the split and read scheme, the server and tracker split the left and right-handed attacks, read the set, and then reposition themselves accordingly. If, for example, the set were to go to the other side of the net, the defense would read this and the server would stay while the tracker attempts to cover angles closer to the net. In server follow, the tracker follows the server who is attempting to cover the dominant options for the receiver. In this case, we assume is the right-handed open and pull. So the server rotates to cover the primary shots and the tracker follows to cover the short, flick, and push shots. In tracker follow, we have the same idea as server follow, but instead the tracker attempts to cover the dominant options for the receiver. If we assume again that these are the right-handed open and pull, the tracker will rotate to cover those. The server will follow and be responsible for the non-primary shots like the short, flick, and push. In funnel defense, either of the 2 defenders attempts to cut off the attacker's options at the net. Oftentimes, a funnel either forces the attacker to hit the ball directly at the second defender or into the funneler, who has strategically angled their body towards the second defender. The most efficient funnels increase the probability of a solid first defensive touch or ricochet the ball up for an easy set. Remember, schemes are simply a way of describing a set of defensive positions from one teammate to another. That being said, one scheme or even a combination of schemes might not work every time. More than anything, a team should make an effort to identify their opponent's offensive strengths and weaknesses. When a team has taken notes on their opponent, they should be prepared to communicate positioning and place themselves in spots that discourage strong attacks and encourage error. The second key for defense is orientation. Orientation is a snapshot of the position of each player after each change of possession and before the first offensive contact. The only time the defense can be certain of orientation is before serving. In pre-serve, there are two possible orientations, and they are based off of the position of the offensive second contact or setter. Now, I understand that this is a lot to keep track of, so if anything, just remember this. If you're on the serving team, look for the person who will set the ball after your team serves, so the second contact. If they're to the left of you, the orientation is setter left. If they're to the right, then the orientation is setter right. The last of the three defensive keys is rotation. After the ball has been served, there are three rotations that commonly take place as the offense approaches the net. The first rotation is when the receiver approaches the net from the same position they received the ball in. This is the same rotation demonstrated in the shot segment from earlier on. The second rotation is a 90-degree clockwise rotation from the serving position. In the setter left orientation, a left-handed attack is ideal for this rotation as the server and tracker's initial position is directly opposite from the hit's direction. In the setter right orientation, this rotation is not ideal as the set would have to travel over the back of the receiver. Our third rotation is a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation from the receiving position. The setter left orientation is not ideal for this rotation as the set would have to travel over the back of the receiver. Just as a left-handed attack is ideal in the setter left orientation for a 90-degree clockwise rotation, a right-handed attack is ideal for the setter right orientation and a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation, as the hit's direction is opposite the server and the tracker's initial position. Hey, if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for watching the entire video. In my opinion, defense is the most complex aspect of Roundnet, and with the 1-2-3 meta headed out and the introduction of the no-hit zone, I believe that strategic defense will resurface and weigh in more heavily on the game than it ever has. If you'd like to build your own defensive schemes with your partner, I've left a printable link to the Roundnet Court I used in this video as an example in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, comment down below, and I'll see you next time.